Welcome to Knittings and Sewings, a podcast with me and Walter. We come to you from Kansas City, and we're a podcast where we talk about all things knitting, sewing, weaving, spinning, crochet, and any number of other fiber crafts that we happen to get up to. And I thank you for joining me here today. Many of you have been with me since the beginning, and some of you have discovered me after following me because of the Stephen West Geogradient MKAL. I started talking about it and anticipating it clear back in September. And so many of you found me as a result of that. And I've been, as you know, pondering what yarn I'm going to be using for it because I wanted to get an ideal kit. And I did buy the Stephen West kit, as you know, the teal kit called Life in the Long Grass. And I decided, though, fairly as of last time, I think, last episode, or I told you I wasn't sure I was going to go with that kit. The reason being, because of a sign I found in a friend of mine's bathroom in her studio. And I'm going to put it up for you right now. It basically says something like, subtlety is not me, or, you know, something like that. I'm anything but subtle. And I will put the exact sign up because I took a picture of it. I liked it so well. But that's why the teal kit wasn't going to be a good fit for me, because it just simply was not bright enough and saturated enough in the coloring to fit my desire to have a more vibrant, colorful kit. So I had decided about 70 to 80% sure last time we talked that I would not use that kit. And instead, I was going to try to find something better. So sure enough, my friend Carolyn, who was starting the MKAL for the first time with me, she was needing to go to find some colors for herself. So I suggested we go to my favorite fiber store here in the greater Kansas City area, which is called Unwind Fiber Arts in Lee Summit, Missouri. Judy and I and Carolyn, the three of us, went over to Unwind because they're open Thursday evenings after work. So we met over there, and with the intent of helping Carolyn pick out her yarn, and possibly if I happened upon something that would work in substitute for what I already had, then great, I would get that. But Judy and I were over in the Emma's Practically Perfect sock yarn wall, while Carolyn was with Holly at the store helper, who was helping her pick out a kit over in the Malagrigo Ultimate Sock area. So while we're standing there looking at all the options, Holly comes running over to me excitedly with 4 skeins of yarn in her arms. And one is like it's called Oro. It's a golden harvest gold color. And there was a rusty color that is called caramel. There was a fuchsia color that is called magenta. And finally, there was a really bright, beautiful teal color that is called feather teal. And so I said, oh, are these the ones Carolyn's going with? These are gorgeous. And she said, well, no, actually not. She said, I presented these to her as an option, but she felt that these were your colors, not hers. So she immediately suggested I see them for if they work for me. And right away, I knew these resonated with me. They were just absolutely beautiful. And I was so excited to then take home my 1970s set of colors. Well, I swatched those colors, and I'm going to put up a swatch right now of how those looked in the swatch. I liked them very much, but I was concerned that the gold and the rust looked a little bit too much alike, perhaps, depending on how the geogradient would be going. So I ended up buying a third set online to supplement what I had from this kit because I wasn't sure that they would be different enough. So I had another kit that also looked kind of 1970s, but you know, it was ridiculous. I ended up going from what was a birthday present for myself. Bob had said, yeah, I could buy that initial kit for myself as my birthday present. my early birthday present. But I went from that to buying this extra set at the yarn store, and then yet again a third set. So I was at the point now of having my Christmas, my birthday for the next, not only this year, but next. Well, I ended up, long story short, I ended up with 3 kits, which was excessive under anyone's standards, especially mine. Because I don't think I bought that much yarn all through 2022 as I did in the month of September this year because of this MKAL. And so anyway, I justified it because of the MKAL. But at any rate, I was that excited about the MKAL, as you know. And then the MKAL came along, the clue dropped on Thursday. Thursday morning at 5:30, I was up first thing to watch the MKAL drop. And my reaction was ecstatic. I was over the moon. This clue was everything I imagined and more. I felt this was his best Clue 1 design ever that I have seen because it had everything I liked. It was fairly complex. It had wonderful construction. It taught a lot of new techniques, including modular knitting. It had the geometric shapes I love. It had everything that I could imagine being in a first Clue. It was just jam-packed with wonderfulness. It had the 1970s flavor, the striping, and I wasn't worried anymore about the gold versus the caramel because everything would work out. It was more of a striped type gradient. Well, over the course of the next couple of days, that really, I started knitting right away that evening, but it became apparent within the next day, by Friday at least, maybe even throughout the day late on Thursday, that there was some discussion over this initial design looking like a hate symbol. And I'm not going to say the name of that hate symbol. I'm not going to to amplify it by saying it, but it was perceived by some people as possibly being that. So right away, Stephen responded very professionally and suggested alternatives. He came up with an hours of a alternative square that was much simpler in design, but he pretty quickly deleted Clue 1, so if you hadn't downloaded it, you would no longer be able to access it, and he replaced it with this newer, simpler square. And it kind of looks like a bullseye. To be honest, it never appealed to me from the very beginning. It was just not, it didn't resonate with me as being something I would want to knit. It did look like a bullseye, and it wasn't nearly, to me, as good a design as the first one. My preferred one was the first, although I certainly was planning on altering the coloring and the striping, like many other people had suggested. There have been a lot of great suggestions on ways to make that Clue 1 work and just make some serious alterations to the striping to prevent a bad message. And there were people coming up with all kinds of innovative, wonderful ideas. I was very grateful to Stephen for stepping up and bringing this to our attention and pulling it as soon as he possibly could, and then for the community at large to offer other alternatives. I still think, though, there were many alternatives that were based on Clue 1. By changing coloring and changing striping and changing some things, it would have been, I mean, to me, it would have been fine. It depends on each person what they felt was fine. But I felt that I reflected on a lot. I was bummed out. I was depressed and was trying to figure out why was I feeling so down about it. Because, you know, I felt like he had tried to do the right thing. I was sad for him. I was sad for anyone who was offended by or saw something in the symbol, saw a symbol that unsettled them or upset them. I didn't see it myself, but it didn't matter. That doesn't matter if I saw it myself or not. I'm very sensitive to that, and obviously would never want to support knitting that kind of symbol. So I felt though that there were a lot of alternatives that were becoming available through the community and through Stephen himself. But anyway, I had decided after mulling it over all day Saturday, I admit I felt this indecision and this sadness and this kind of feeling of anxiety throughout a lot of the day as I tried to research the best alternatives. Because at that point I had already completed a quarter of the clue. And so I had some beautiful knitting. I really liked the way my swatch was going, the way my clue 1 was going. But I was willing to rip it out, and I did. I decided, no, I can't go with this. I've got to change it significantly. So I had already ripped it out, was realizing I was going to lose some yarn, but, you know, it was worth it to not have Stephen uncomfortable and anyone else that might be uncomfortable over this. So I was prepared to do a couple of different alternatives that I had uncovered. And one is one by a lady named Elaine, who made a beautiful adaptation off Clue 1 by doing some color blocking. And there were some triangles, and it would still maintain the good construction of the original clue, but it would eliminate any possibility of any bad message. So I really liked her option. That was one I was very seriously thinking of going with. Another one was one that Pink Queen came up with. She's a tester for Stephen, and she had a box that was really cool. I looked at that and was very drawn to it. And my husband loved it because he said it looked like a time tunnel. And he loves science fiction like I do. So we both were drawn to that as well. But I had started going into the triangle option because I found it both attractive and I felt it would be fairly easy for me to do and kind of play catch up. So I started working on that. And then I worked on it all day, a lot of the day on Sunday. And I did finish a quarter of it. I'll show you right now what I had finished. I was going to do the gold stripe, the gold triangle first. And then I was going to end up having 4 quadrants with each of the colors. I was going to have the rust, the fuchsia, and the teal. And have an avocado stripe going all around it with the striping. And I felt that would be a good solution. But by Monday morning, I realized that we really didn't even have that option because Stephen had since decided and posted a video and removed the original YouTube that was supporting people doing Clue 1. He decided that he wanted to eliminate it, and he also was strongly urging people to please, pivot, as he said. And he said this Saturday night too in a video he did Saturday night, that he really preferred people to pivot and to not do Clue 1 or any modifications. And it got more firm on Monday, where he was not going to allow pictures on the Ravelry website, and he was going to, of the people that did not opt to do the new version of 3. And so I think he's still allowing the Pink Queen's version, but I think so. I'm not sure, I'm not his spokesperson, but anyway. But there was even more reaction. And I had, again, the emotional reactions and indecision and feeling of angst all over again. And I thought, I am not going to carry this into this week, too. When I was on Saturday feeling all the angst, I had done a meditation to try to quiet my mind. And one of the meditations I do is a question meditation, where I ask myself a question at the beginning of the meditation and then listen carefully for the answer as I do breathing techniques and relaxation techniques. And I want to read you what came to me on Saturday, because I think this is something that resonated in my soul, and I liked it, and then I journaled about it. But what it said is, when I asked the question, why am I feeling in such a flux with such indecision and angst? And the answer came back that your indecision is actually a desire for playful exploration. And I just need to relax into it and explore it with a sense of discovery. And as soon as I came out of the meditation, I had to write that down and journal about it, because I really felt it was insightful. It made me have a new perspective that allowed me to do the knitting on Sunday, to try a new box, to try a new square, and to rip out the one I had. But by Monday today, when he had this other posting and this other reaction, I just began to feel like I need to protect myself a little bit here. I've been on this emotional roller coaster all through the weekend, and now I'm feeling it being hit with it again on Monday. For whatever reason, I just felt like I don't need any more of this right now for me. I need to step back, and I need to make, as he said himself, you might want to make some space, I think was his wording, to decide what you want to do and look for clue 2 to see what you might want to do next. And I agree with that part of what he said. I think I ultimately do knitting for fun and relaxation and creativity and expression of my creativity. And now I'm at the point where I need to step back and figure out what I'm going to be doing next. I could be, doing one of the boxes. I don't know what I'm going to do at this point, but I'm going to let go of that decision-making pressure and just let this go for a little bit. Let it sit. And I want to do the playful exploration and have it be fun, like it felt like on Sunday. I want to be able to have my knitting be fun again and to have the MKAL be fun again. So I want to release the need to immediately decide what I'm going to do. But, I hope you'll understand. I'm not trying to, I want to be supportive of Stephen, but I've been through a lot this weekend, like many of us, and I really feel I need to step back a little bit and just do some playful exploration. Let it sit, let myself decide where I'm going with this. I'm not going to throw my needles down in exasperation or anything like that, but I am going to give it some space. And that's where I'm at with it. I hope you understand. Now, another thing I wanted to bring up for any of you several of you really appreciated me showing you my bag with the tote bag adaptions I showed last time. I want to show you how I ended up with the buttons. I had finished the lining last time, but I didn't have the buttons yet. I'd ordered the buttons. Well, I decided to put a little I-cord crochet twist on the buttons. I did get 2 buttons, and so that's how I ended up closing it. There's a lot of, I don't know if you can see it very well, but I put 2 different colored buttons, one on each side. And this I-cord I made is a 4-stitch I-cord, which might be a little bit thick for the buttons. But I sewed on the back button back here so it holds on and I don't lose the little closure. But I just twist it in a figure 8 and then put it around the first button, and that holds the bag closed. That's working really well for me. So I do want to show you that. I also want to show you I don't know if I'm going to keep this now or rip it out, but this is what I ended up with as my alternative to the clue 1, but this is based on the clue 1. So I don't know if I'm going to finish this or what I'm going to be doing. That's what I was saying. I want to show you that though. And then I also want to show you, for those of you that are trying to decide what you might want to do next, one thing that popped into my mind as one option maybe is I made this vest back in 2009. It was on the Creative Knitter magazine front cover in September of 2008. And I'm not wearing it right now because it's a little bit tight on me now. I made it over 15 years ago. I think 15 years ago. So it's a little bit tight on me, but I really like this vest, and it is composed of mitered squares. And right away when I first started working on this clue on Thursday, I was reminded of this vest. That's why I pulled it out to show you. So that's another option I am considering as a possibility, is to do a mitered square for that section that we're replacing. I haven't decided yet. I don't know that this pattern will work or how exactly I would get the exact number of stitches, but that is an option, and I will put a link up. You can buy the pattern for this if any of you like it. I believe it's available as an e-pattern now for $4.95. Creative Knitter Magazine is no longer in business, but that is a good option, a possible option that I'm considering. I love modular knitting. The other thing I want to show you real quick is that I finished the Killer Queen shawl. It is beautiful. I'll be wearing it in my next podcast, you guys, but I wore it out on Saturday, and it is just lovely. There's a couple of different ways to wear it, and I'll be showing you that on the next podcast. I'm going to right now insert a video of me steam blocking it because it is a cotton with a little bit of acrylic in it. There's a special way you block it. You don't just block it by washing it like you do wool. So I'm going to insert that video right now. Hi, we are going to do a steam block on the Killer Queen shawl, which is completed now. I have it laid out simply on a sheet. This is one that is made of cotton acrylic yarn, and that is why I've decided to do a steam blocking rather than a normal washing like I would do hand washing with wool. I'm just simply going to anchor down a few of the key points of the shawl so that it doesn't move. And it's already, the dimensions are 56 by 35. I'm just going to kind of make this little end a little bit not very straight there. Do that. And again, just a few key points because this shawl doesn't need a lot of, it's an ideal size already. Doesn't need a lot of, stretching or pulling. Just needs to pretty much stay in its size it is now. So I'm only going to put a few key points so that it doesn't shrink. I don't want it to shrink, which cotton can do. All I want to do is steam it and kind of even it out. So I have this steam coming out, this vapor. I need to be careful not to burn myself. But just putting this, and it's already boiling, so it's already hot enough. And I'm starting by going around the edges, because that's my concern, that the edges kind of stay flat and smoother, kind of smooth down. Pay a special attention to this, and I don't want to burn this fiber. Finally, today, I want to bring up something that I hope will bring a smile to your face, no matter what you're doing. If you're knitting like crazy on your Clue 1, trying to get it finished in time for Clue 2, or if you are, like me in an indecisive moment, regardless of what you're doing, whatever you're working on, whatever you're knitting, I would suggest an excellent movie called A Million Miles Away. And I'm going to have a link to it. I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and I found it to be one of the most inspiring and moving movies in a good way. I cried through that movie, and it's an autobiographical movie. It's about a real astronaut who faced a lot of challenges in his life. He had started his life as a immigrant farm worker, even as a child, picking crops in the field. And he eventually rose because he loved science and was determined to be an astronaut. And he did become an astronaut, and his whole story, it was even in People magazine, but it was so well portrayed in that movie, it brought me tears of joy. Not tears of sadness, tears of joy. It just was so moving in a good way. And my emotions have been really up and down a lot this last month, like a roller coaster. But I was glad to start my month by watching this movie. And I will watch it again. It's available on, come here. I think it's available on Amazon, but I will put a link to it. I think Amazon Prime, you can view it. So hopefully you get Amazon Prime or can, view this movie. I really loved it. And I will highly recommend it to anyone else who wants a really inspiring movie in a good way.
Hi guys, one more thing before we go here on before we leave on the shawl I'm wearing, which is the Killer Queen shawl. Wanted to see you to see how it is when I'm wearing it. I prefer to wear it this way, which I call poncho style, because it does have a shorter wingspan. It and I also want to show off the different gradations of color because it goes from yellow to orange to fuchsia, well, to rust, then fuchsia, then orchid, and then dark purple. So in order to show all the colors, I find that wearing it this way works really well. And I'll turn around so you can see the back of it. It just flips on the back. And because this is a heavier shawl, it tends to stay put very well. Unless I do something really like bending over a lot, like doing laundry or something, it stays put throughout the day. And so to do this way, this is the full wingspan. It's about 56 inches in wingspan, and it's about 35 inches long. So it's got 15 repeats on each side of the middle for my height, which is I'm short. If you are bigger or taller, you may need to do 17 or 18 repeats. But the way I put it on is simply kind of bandana style like this. Get it to the length I want in front. And I like it kind of asymmetrical. And if I had a mirror, I'd make sure it looks nice at the top here. But you can see how easily this is to put in place. And so I really like this shawl. It's fabulous. I've already worn it several times since I finished making it. And I hope you will look at it too. I did put a link to the tutorial that Bag O' Day Crochet provided. And I put a link also to the pattern. You can purchase the pattern if you like, or you can simply go by the free tutorial, whichever you prefer to do. It is a very simple shawl and very repetitive, and so it's a good mindless project that you can have in front of watching TV, or perhaps you're going to do it while you're watching that wonderful movie I talked about earlier called A Million Miles Away. That is the story of astronaut Jose Hernandez, and he was going up in space in 2009. He is truly an American dream story. And like I said earlier, I can't say enough good things about that movie. I hope that you will check that out. It's Amazon Prime. If you have that, you can watch it. And one more thing before we go, I did want to show you the last day of September. I was at a yarn party with my friend Treasure Goddess. And I did get her beautiful Treasure Goddess yarn. This is her cashmere super toes. And there's like, I think there's about 600 yards here, which is enough to make a small shawl. And she has a sock pattern that's called, or excuse me, a shawl pattern called Simple Treasure Shawl, which I will eventually make with this. Then I got the Treasure Goddess Treasure Toe Socks in Copper Cove. And I was really, really happy with this color. It's a beautiful copper rusty color. It would go very well with my 1970s theme I've been into. And finally, one more thing. This was not a purchase. I actually won this at the door prize. I have 5 skeins of the beautiful Treasure Goddess Organic Merino Sport Yarn in the color Tidal Wave. There are 5 of these. And each of them, I can't read the yardage without my glasses, but I know that I've calculated it and I can make a short sleeved top or sweater with this amount of yarn, at least a short sleeve top. So I'm really excited about the possibility of this. And I'm looking at some pattern possibilities right now to use it. And I'll be talking about that later when I get around to knitting this. I've got all these treasures now to knit. And so let the knitting begin.
And I want to say one more thing before we go. To turn it a little bit more positive direction, I do want, regardless of what happens with me in the knit along, I want to, starting next time, I want to start offering up some ideas for Christmas or holiday gifts that will be easy and inexpensive. Literally, hopefully you can do in as quick a time as possible. I already have several gift ideas that I frequently use during the holidays that I think again would be ones that you might be interested in if you like a quick, easy holiday gift. and I'm going to be sharing the first one of those next time. So please look out for that video, and I hope you'll join me for that. It'll be on the next video. Until next time, love what you're making and wear what you make. Thanks for joining me, everybody. See you next time.